So Walt, I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to kind of rotate this around a bit. So, we're President-wise.
Walt's fine.
Thank you. So name something major that has changed in your trade since you started.
Without a doubt, it has to be safety. Safety is the number one priority for us all. You know, in our history, if you look 100 years ago, the ironworkers were losing 1% of their membership to disabling or fatal injuries. If that would translate today, that would be 1,000 ironworkers per year. The ironworkers made a statement that's not going to happen. When I started, I worked in 1976 for American Bridge. The safety meeting went something like this, and we only had one. The job superintendent, Vernon Board, walked in. He looked around the trailer and he said, "The bean counters tell me we're going to lose 1.4 iron workers on this job. Y'all figure out who it's going to be." And out the trailer he went. Well, we figured out who it was going to be. It wasn't going to be any of us. And we finished that bridge. We did that job without any serious injuries at all. Because what we decided is we got to look out for ourselves. That regulations aren't going to make us safe. The only thing that's going to make us safe is each other. And that's where we looked at when I became president 2 years ago. We were going to set a goal that we were going to have years of 0 fatalities. We haven't reached that goal yet, but we've cut in half the number of fatalities during the last 2 years. And it comes from, the personal responsibility. We made clear to every member that you have a responsibility to look out not only for yourself, but those that are working around you, regardless of the craft. And by doing that, that's the thing I can point out that says that has drastically reduced the fatalities we have on the job. And you reduce those, you reduce all incidences. And that's our number one priority, make sure everybody returns home safe every day.
So taking the theme of looking out for each other, being safe, promoting the benefit for others, I'm going to direct this question to you, Robbie. Your role, not only being a 433 iron worker, but is president of the state building trades, which has over 100 affiliated local unions, district councils from all the trades. And so solidarity and sticking together is important. So in your experience, you know, how does that translate to, you know, on the job site to important things that have to be achieved?
Well, it's basically the premise of the building trades was that if we don't bind ourselves together, just like a pencil, you can break a single pencil, but if you put 15 together, you can't break it. That was the premise of the building trades. They could break the iron worker on his own. They could break the electrician, they could break the laborer, they could break the painter. But if we bond together and we work together and we face into the wind, we can beat anybody. There you go. That is really the premise of the building trades. And we have learned that if we act together, the contractors and the clients that we work for will get a better product, whether it be safety, training, political action. It's our political action that puts us on an even par, and that's the unity of the building trades. Thank you.
So, Ken, a question for you. So in other industries, doctors, lawyers had few women in the 70s, and now women dominate those industries. Why do you think it's been so hard for women to get a foothold in the building trades?
Well, if I spin off my first comment, it's really about, again, policy and the interaction of like changing that culture. My international union, I believe was at our general convention in 1999, changed its name from the International Brotherhood of Painters and Allied Trades to the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades. And that's okay, but that was a policy statement. It's 1999, it's 2014. And the road wasn't instant coffee to get from just changing our name to actually living up to what International Union of Painters and Allied Trades really means. And for me, it really means that our organization, anyone that aspires to want to be a drywall finisher, a commercial painter decorator, a coating applicator specialist, a floor covering installer, a trade show build and design, or a glazer, or a hazardous waste removal person, all 7 of those occupations I talked about are certified apprenticeable crafts with the United States Department of Labor. So our union has a lot of venues and a lot of directions you can go in when you pursue a trade. And you would be foolish if you think that a glazer, drywall finisher, painter, floor cover, hazardous waste worker, drywall finisher, glazer, all of that stuff, if you have to look one way. It's just nonsensical. And if the net is thrown out so that everybody has the opportunity and the access, that's the way it'll change. But it's not just policy. Policy is great, but unless you change to meet the policy and work to meet the policy, it means nothing. And I can say, in my tenure, I've been in Washington, D.C. since 1997. I'm from California, by the way. East Palo Alto, San Jose. That's my roots. Okay? So, if you don't change, and I am proud to say that our international union's culture has changed. I'm so proud of my district council, District Council 16, that they not only talked it, but they continue to walk it. And that's the key to every union here. That's the key to Walt Wise's union. That's the key to Robbie and the state building trades. And Robbie, you talk about herding cats. And I can say that because I know what it's like working through a state building trades or a local building trades affiliate. Kudos to you. But to be able to do that and try to somehow just keep grinding it, to move forward, maybe in 9 or 10 years, maybe if you stick with it, things can change. And I'll just take one more moment and just say, I was talking to one of my members here from Los Angeles, Miss Pineda. Where are you? Stand up. Where is she? There you go. Person who could be just like anybody in this room. I told her, graduated from high school, got in an apprenticeship program, journey personed out. She's now a trainer in our training program. Those are the keys I'm talking about. That's how you move forward. And if Ms. Pineda has moved forward and cracked open that door a little bit and made it a little bit easier for someone to come behind her, that's how the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades goes from policy to culture to reality.
So building off of that, Walt, tell me the top thing that your union is doing now to support women in the trades.
I think the number one thing is we had to come to the realization and the commitment that we cannot be all we can be as the Ironworkers Union if you can't be all you can as an iron worker. And that's the decision that we made going forward. We have an aggressive schedule for growth. We're going to double market share over the next few years. That means we're going to double membership. And I'm not going to let 50% of the United States and North America go untapped as far as the great iron workers that could be in your ranks. I mean, we have a lot of opportunities out there, and it's going to take all of us to be able to meet that demand out there, and that's how we're going to do it. As far as internally things that we're doing, several years ago, we made part of the curriculum for business managers and for our contractor associations is how to deal their responsibilities for harassment cases that they encounter on the job or within the union, what we have to do to protect our members' rights, all of our members' rights on the job site. We're looking at various programs. You know, I look at our 150 outside local unions we have, they're laboratories. And we look at the great things done in California, Pacific Northwest, up through Minneapolis, Chicago, the great things that they've done to recruit and attract and retain women iron workers. And we want to duplicate that elsewhere. And we're looking at several innovative programs. I will be for our National International Training Instructors Training Seminar in Washtenaw, Michigan, just July. We will be forming up an advisory committee on the recruitment, and that'll be comprised of various aspects of women, minorities, business managers, JATC, community groups that's going to sit down and develop the policies we need to go out and recruit the individuals that we need to meet the demand out there in the market. And there's some great programs out there. We looked at the same thing that we did in California when we recruited the Native Americans. What did we do? We decided they had to have a pre-apprenticeship program, bring them in for 4 to 6 weeks, let them understand what the craft's about, bring them in from all over the country, and then let them go out into any local union that they want to as an apprentice. And we're looking at programs like that, and hopefully a lot from the feedback we get from our delegates here as far as things that they recognize and they feel can be added. So we're moving forward to develop the workforce that's needed out there in the industry and how we make the iron workers out there the dominant force in the ironworking industry.
It's outstanding. Walt, I'd like to say all great minds think alike, but I learned from you, I learned from listening, and I'm so glad to hear what the Ironworkers International is doing, and the IUPAT is trying to follow that. You know, I spoke about policy and culture change. In those things that we do, as far as what the IUPAT does, is, like I said, 1999, 2014. We're engaged by doing these very things. Coming to this event, this thing that has grown over 35 years to nearly 1,000 people in the room today. I'm glad to be a part of this. I'm glad to be here to learn more, to see how I can improve. But that whole thing about having training programs, not only training our existing instructors, but reaching out to folks. I'm proud to say the relationship that the IUPAT and specifically our affiliates in the Pacific Northwest have with Oregon tradeswomen, Connie Ashbrook's outfit. That's the kind of stuff that we have to do in order to move forward. I know one thing. There's two numbers, 11 and 6. On a great day, the organized workforce in this country is 11%. If you pull out public sector unions, police, firefighters, school teachers, etc., that number becomes 6%. Who are we kidding? That if we're going to grow in membership, market share, and impact in the specific industries that we work in, that the painters and allied trades can do it alone. Like Robbie said, or the iron workers can do it alone, or the building trades can do it alone. That's why these types of sessions, women in the trades, again, those constituencies, all of them, we have to pull together, because really, when you talk about organized labor and what organized labor has done in this great country, it still has benefited those who don't have the benefit of a collective bargaining agreement. We're working families. That's what we are. We're working families. And if we don't figure out some kind of way to pull from our own and get the right folks, get the right people, recruit them, and retain them, is 6% going to be 5, 4? I'm bullish on my union. I'm bullish on the Building and Construction Trades Department of the AFL-CIO. Hell, I'm bullish on the AFL-CIO. And that's going to go up. If we do what we're going to do, if we actually walk and talk what we're doing here, then that number is going to go from 11 to 12, 15, 13, 17, hut, hut. We'll be moving forward.